Saturday mornings were the only part of my life that still felt entirely mine. No meetings, no deadlines, no polite lies. Just a small wooden table near the cafe window, a cup of bitter coffee, and the sound of people living lives that had nothing to do with mine. The cafe sat on a busy street, but inside it felt like a pause button. Soft jazz hummed in the background. Sunlight slid across glass tables like it was searching for something. I always came early, before the crowd, before the noise, before the day could ask anything from me. I ordered the same thing every time. Black coffee, no sugar, no milk. I liked things simple maybe because my life already felt complicated in ways I never talked about. I pulled out my notebook, not to write anything important, but to pretend I had somewhere else to be. That way, no one would disturb me. That way, I could sit with my thoughts without explaining them. My phone buzzed. Zara. I stared at her name for a few seconds before answering. "Good morning," she said, cheerful, like nothing in the world was wrong. "Morning," I replied. "You at your cafe again?" "Yeah, just for a bit." "Okay, don't be late. We're supposed to go to my cousin's place in the evening." I remember. There was a pause. The kind that happens when both people are waiting for the other to say something meaningful and neither does. "All right," she said finally. "See you later." "See you." The call ended, and so did the warmth in my chest. Zara and I had been married for 6 years. On the outside, we looked perfect. Good jobs. Nice apartment, smiling pictures on social media. People said we were lucky. They didn't know how quiet our marriage had become. It wasn't loud fights or broken plates. It was something worse. Distance.com. Polite, cold distance. We spoke about groceries, bills, family events, and plans, but not about feelings, not about fears, not about the small things that slowly turn into big emptiness. I was loyal, not just in action, but in thought. I didn't flirt, I didn't look twice. I believe that once you choose someone, you protect that choice every day, even when it's boring, even when it's hard. I worked long hours so we could live comfortably. I canceled plans with friends because she didn't like being alone at night. I stayed silent during arguments, just to keep peace. I told myself love sometimes meant swallowing your words. But lately, even my silence felt invisible. Zara had changed. Or maybe I had just started noticing. She kept her phone face down now. She smiled at messages but never shared what made her smile. She said she was busy more often than she said she missed me. There were nights she came home late, tired but glowing in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. When I asked how work was, she said, "Same as always," and went straight to the shower, taking her phone with her. I told myself not to overthink. Love is trust. I reminded myself. Suspicion is poison. Still, something felt off. I stared at my coffee, now half cold, and thought about how quiet my life had become. No drama, no chaos, just routine, safe, predictable, but safety without warmth feels like loneliness. A couple at the next table laughed loudly. The man brushed crumbs off the woman's jacket with careless affection. She rolled her eyes and smiled like she'd known that touch all her life. I looked away. My phone buzzed again. A missed call from Zara. 2 minutes later, a message. "Sorry, pocket dial. Talk later." Pocket dial. I typed OK and deleted it, then typed it again and sent it. I didn't know why that small message bothered me more than it should have. I closed my notebook. I wasn't writing anything anyway, just sitting, thinking, pretending everything was fine. That's when I felt it. That strange feeling you get when someone is watching you. I looked up. A woman stood a few steps away from my table. She looked around 30, maybe a little more. Long hair pulled into a nervous ponytail. Her hands were clasped together like she was holding on to courage. She looked at me, then looked away, then looked back. Her eyes weren't curious. They were heavy, like they carried something they didn't want to carry alone. She took one step forward, then stopped, bit her lip, turned slightly, as if she might leave. I went back to my coffee, pretending not to notice, but my chest felt tight for no reason I could explain. After a few seconds, I looked up again. She was still there, closer now. Our eyes met. She opened her mouth, closed it, then took a slow breath like someone about to step into cold water. She looked at me like someone who already knew how my life would collapse. She stood beside my table like she was waiting for permission to destroy my life. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "Can I sit?" Her voice wasn't dramatic. It wasn't shaky either. It was careful, like someone walking through broken glass. I nodded before I even understood why. She sat, placed her bag on her lap, and folded her hands the way people do when they're about to confess something that will never be taken back. "My name is Maya," she said. "I wouldn't bother you if this wasn't important." I forced a polite smile. "You already have my attention." She looked around the cafe as if checking for witnesses. Then her eyes locked onto mine. "Your wife knows my boyfriend?" The sentence didn't land all at once. It arrived in pieces, slow, confusing, unreal. "What?" I said. She repeated it, quieter. "Your wife knows my boyfriend." I laughed. I didn't mean to. It just slipped out. Sharp and short. "I think you have the wrong person." Her face didn't change. That's what scared me. "I don't," she said. "Your wife is Zara." Hearing her say my wife's name felt like someone had stepped into my house without knocking. "You don't get to say her name like that," I replied, my voice low. Maya swallowed. I didn't want to, but I had to. The cafe suddenly felt too loud. Cups clinking, people laughing, chairs scraping the floor. And yet, her words felt far away, like they were being shouted from underwater. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because my boyfriend is lying to me," she said. "And your wife is part of that lie." My hands clenched around my coffee cup. "You're wrong. I wish I was." I stood up halfway, my chair scraping loudly. "This is a mistake. My wife wouldn't." Maya reached into her bag. "Please, just look." I didn't want to. Every part of me screamed not to, but my eyes moved anyway. She showed me a name on her phone, saved as Z. My throat went dry. "She met him at a work event," Maya said. "She told him she was married but unhappy." My heart began to beat too fast. "Stop," she scrolled. There were messages, not all of them just enough. "Missed you today. Wish you stayed longer. Same place next time." The dates matched. Nights Zara had come home late. "Show me her face," I said, my voice barely holding together. Maya hesitated, then opened a photo. It wasn't clear. A mirror reflection, a woman's hair, a jacket I had bought Zara for her birthday. I pushed my chair back and stood fully. "This proves nothing." Maya looked at me with tired eyes. "He called her by her full name once. Zara Khalid. That's your wife, right?" My mouth opened. Nothing came out. "He told me she's careful." Maya continued. "Said she never stays long. Never leaves proof." I felt heat rise in my chest. Not explosive, but dangerous. Controlled anger. The kind that makes your hands shake but your voice stay calm. "You don't know my marriage," I said. "You don't know her." "I know she knows my boyfriend," Maya replied. "And I know I didn't imagine these." She showed me one more thing. A cafe name. Not this one, another, across the city. "That's where they meet," she said. "Every other Thursday." That was the same day Zara always said she had late meetings. I stepped back. My legs felt weak. People were staring now. Or maybe they weren't. Everything looked unreal. Maya stood too. "I didn't come to hurt you. I came because I couldn't carry this alone." I didn't answer. I couldn't. "I'm sorry," she said again. I walked out without paying for my coffee. The street felt brighter than it should have. Louder, faster. My heart pounded like it was trying to escape my body. I walked. I didn't know where. Every memory started changing shape in my head. Late nights, quiet smiles, phone turned away. No, I told myself. There has to be another explanation. But doubt doesn't need proof. It only needs a crack. By the time I reached home, my hands were still shaking. Zara wasn't there yet. I sat on the couch, staring at nothing, replaying Maya's words over and over. "Your wife knows my boyfriend." When the door finally opened, I didn't move. Zara walked in, smiling like always. "Hey," she said. "You're home early." She leaned down and kissed my cheek. I looked at her, face really looked at it, and for the first time in 6 years, she felt like a stranger. At home that night, Zara smiled and I suddenly didn't recognize her. I didn't confront her, not that night, not the next. I became quiet, watchful, a shadow moving alongside her life. Accusation would give her a chance to lie better. Silence would let the truth reveal itself. At first, I observed small things. Her phone was never on the table anymore. She kept it tucked into her hand or in her bag. When it buzzed, she turned away. She typed carefully, locked it immediately, almost ritualistically. I noticed new passwords appearing. Small changes, almost invisible, but enough to make my chest tighten. She started leaving for work earlier, returning later. "Meetings?" she said. "Client projects? Or after-work catch-ups? Always on Thursdays." Always short trips that made her glow when she returned. Nights when she came home late, she smelled differently, perfume I had never bought, a scent I didn't know. I replayed every past moment in my head. The nights she smiled too long at her phone, the quiet moments she brushed past me without a glance. Every memory shifted, twisted by suspicion, and I realized I had been blind, yet I pretended nothing was wrong. I laughed at her jokes. I ate the dinners she cooked. I asked about her day and nodded when she said, "Same as always." My silence became a mask, but it suffocated me. Every word I didn't say weighed on me. Every false smile felt like a betrayal of myself. One afternoon, I noticed a small pouch hidden behind her coats in the closet. I had never seen it before. Inside, perfume, a scarf, and a folded hotel receipt dates matching her business trips. Not enough to accuse, but enough to tighten the knot in my chest. I went through drawers carefully, avoiding anything that felt like proof. But the last drawer locked, unfamiliar, called to me. The old spare key sat in the jewelry box. Forgotten? My hand shook as I unlocked it. Inside, a small notebook, nothing obvious. Just pages filled with short, fragmented lines. "Miss him today. Wish I wasn't married. Too dangerous to show it. Can't stop thinking of him." Each line burned like acid against my heart. This wasn't a casual fling. This wasn't a mistake. This was months of secret confession, written in silence. I sat on the bed holding the notebook, trembling. Every word confirmed what I had feared. I hadn't been paranoid. I hadn't imagined the phone calls, the late nights, the strange perfume. It was all real. And then it hit me. I had lost her long before I even knew I had to fight for her. It wasn't a message, it wasn't a photo. It was worse. It was the truth hiding quietly in plain sight, waiting for me to notice. I closed the notebook. My heart raced. My hands shook. And I knew that soon, the silence I had clung to would no longer protect me. I didn't sleep that night. I lay beside her, listening to her breathe, counting each exhale like it might be the last familiar sound I'd hear from her. Memories played in my mind: the wedding day, her trembling hands in mine, our first tiny apartment, the laughter and the promises. Every shared dream now felt like a cruel echo. Morning came. I didn't kiss her goodbye. She noticed. "Everything okay?" she asked, her voice still soft, half asleep. "Yes," I said, though my voice didn't sound like me. That evening, the weight of the notebook, the hotel receipt, and the hidden scarf pressed against my chest. I couldn't pretend anymore. I stood in the middle of our apartment. "We need to talk," I said. Her smile faltered slightly. "About what?" "About us." She laughed lightly. "What about us? Answer honestly. Are you happy?" Her face shifted, I guess. "Life is busy, but we're fine." "Are you faithful?" I asked quietly. Her eyes snapped up. "What kind of question is that?" "Answer," I said. "Yes," she replied quickly. "Of course." I nodded once, silently acknowledging the lie, the denial, the pretense. Then I walked to the bedroom and returned with the red scarf I had found in her pouch. Her face changed. Her hands trembled slightly. "Whose is this?" I asked. "It's mine," she said softly. "And this perfume?" I placed it beside the scarf. She hesitated. "A gift." I held up the hotel receipt. "Explain." Her lips parted. No words came. "You've been lying," I said quietly. "Every late night, every secret message, every work trip, you've been hiding a life that wasn't mine to protect." She finally broke. "You don't understand," she cried. "I was lonely. You were always busy. You weren't there. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I only held up the notebook, line by line. Wish I wasn't married. Miss him today." Her body went still. Her eyes widened. The mask she had worn for months began to crack. "I never wanted to hurt you," she whispered. I stayed calm. "Then why?" I thought. I thought I could have both. I could have youth, a safe life, and him, the excitement. I didn't think it would matter. I didn't think it would hurt like this. I didn't flinch. I simply said, "It does hurt, and I see it now." Her shoulders slumped. She whispered a name. The name wasn't mine. It was the moment everything changed. The moment I realized that the person I had loved, trusted, and built a life with had been living somewhere else, quietly, for months. And in that quiet, I understood that some truths cannot be hidden forever, and some betrayals cannot be forgiven by silence alone. The name stayed in the air between us like smoke after a fire. I didn't repeat it. I didn't ask who he was. I didn't need details anymore. Zara cried with her face in her hands. Not dramatic sobs, just broken breathing, like something inside her had finally given up. I sat down slowly. My legs felt hollow. "Say it," I said. "All of it." She wiped her face. Her eyes were red, tired, exposed. "It started small," she whispered. "He noticed me." I stayed silent. At work, people talked to me about tasks, deadlines, problems. He talked to me, about how I looked, how I laughed, how I seemed different from everyone else. My hands began to shake. I folded them together so she wouldn't see. "I didn't plan to fall," she said. "I just liked how it felt to be seen." I nodded once, not because I agreed but because I was listening. "You were always busy," she continued, "always tired. You loved me. I know that, but you didn't look at me the way he did. You didn't ask me how I felt anymore. I wanted to say I did, that I tried. That silence was my way of loving. But words would only make this about me, and right now, it was about the truth. It started with messages," she said, "then lunches, then late evenings. I told myself I could stop any time." She laughed weakly. I never stopped. My throat burned. I swallowed. "He knew I was married," she said. "He said it didn't change how he felt. He said I deserved more than a quiet life." I looked at her. Was our life really that empty? She hesitated. "Not empty, just still." I felt like I was fading. Her words cut, but they didn't shock me. Somewhere deep inside I had felt that fading too. I had just believed love could survive it. "When did it become physical?" I asked. She looked away. "After 3 months," I closed my eyes. 3 months of touching someone else. 3 months of coming home to me with another man still on her skin. "I hated myself," she said. "But I couldn't let go." I stood up and walked to the window. My reflection stared back at me, older, quieter, broken. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said softly. I laughed once. It sounded wrong. "You didn't want to hurt me. You just didn't care if you did." She flinched. "I thought I could keep both worlds," she whispered. "Youth, the safety. Him, the feeling." I turned to face her. "People aren't worlds. They're hearts. And you broke one to feed the other." She cried again. "I'm sorry." Sorry is a small word. It never fits what it's meant to fix. I sat back down, slowly. My hands were still shaking. "Do you love him?" I asked. She hesitated, then nodded slightly. "I think I do." That was the moment something inside me finally stopped fighting. I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel hatred. I felt empty like a house after everyone has moved out. "You lost me long before today," I said quietly. "I just didn't know it yet." She reached for my hand. I pulled it away. "Don't," I said gently. "That touch belongs to someone else now." Her shoulders dropped. "I don't know how to fix this," she cried. "You can't," I replied, "because fixing means going back. And there is no back." We sat in silence. The kind that has weight. The kind that presses on your chest. I thought about our wedding. Our plans, the names we had picked for children that would never exist. I thought about how hard I had tried to be enough. Then I stood. I'm leaving, I said. She looked up in shock. Not tonight, I added, but soon, please, she begged. We can try, I'll end it, I swear. I believed she might. But belief wasn't love anymore, it was damage control. I don't want to be someone you return to, I said. I want to be someone you choose. And you didn't. She cried louder. I made a mistake. No, I said softly. You made a decision. Every day, for months. I picked up my jacket. She followed me to the door. Where will you go? I don't know, I answered. But I know I can't stay. I looked at her one last time, not with anger, not with hate, but with a sadness so deep it felt calm. I loved you quietly, I said. And you left loudly. I opened the door. Walking away felt heavier than staying, but staying felt like dying. I moved out with just one bag. Not because I wanted freedom, but because staying felt like dying. The apartment felt empty when I first entered my new room. White walls, a thin mattress, a desk that barely held my laptop, everything was unfamiliar, yet painfully mine. At night, silence screamed. Each creak of the floorboard, each car passing outside reminded me that the life I had built with Zara no longer existed. I replayed our memories constantly. The small laughs, the quiet dinners, the evenings we thought were hours alone, everything replayed like a film with missing frames. And with every replay, the weight on my chest grew heavier. Friends tried to comfort me. You should forgive her, one said. People make mistakes. You shouldn't throw away years over one chapter, another added. They didn't understand. They hadn't heard the name, she whispered instead of mine. They didn't know how heavy betrayal could feel, especially when delivered in quiet moments, carefully hidden behind smiles. The world demanded I forgive. Society called leaving selfish, but I realized leaving was the only way to survive, the only way to breathe again without suffocating under someone else's lies. One evening, I received a message from Maya. I just wanted to know if you're okay, she wrote. I stared at the message. My chest tightened. Then I typed, I'm alive. That's all I can promise. We met at a park near the cafe where it had all begun. She looked smaller, fragile, worn by her own heartbreak. We didn't talk about Zara. We didn't talk about betrayal. We talked about survival, about how it felt to witness the same storm without being swept away. I keep thinking maybe I wasn't enough, Maya whispered. Enough doesn't stop someone who wants more than honesty, I replied. It was strange. Two people broken in different ways, yet understanding each other better than anyone else could. No judgment, no false reassurance, just truth. Slowly, life started again. I ran in the mornings, cooked simple meals, and laughed when something genuinely amused me. I stopped explaining my pain to people who wouldn't understand. I stopped answering Zara's calls. Not out of hatred, but because I had finally learned to protect my silence. I wasn't healed yet. The memories still haunted me sometimes. Her perfume, her laugh, the ghost of her touch, each one a reminder of what I had lost, but the pain no longer controlled me. I could breathe. I wasn't healed, but I wasn't bleeding anymore. Time had a strange way of teaching lessons I didn't want to learn. It didn't erase the past, it just made the present survivable. I rebuilt my life slowly, quietly. Work, discipline, self-respect became my anchors. Mornings were runs. Evenings spent reading or taking courses I had postponed for a life that didn't exist anymore. My laughter returned, soft but genuine. My voice regained its calm. I discovered strength in solitude, courage in silence, and dignity in leaving. Then, one evening, she appeared. Zara, smaller, somehow not in body, but in spirit. Her eyes pleaded, her hands trembled. Can we talk? She asked. We sat on a bench. She confessed everything, how she had ended the affair, how regret had hollowed her out, how she missed us. Her words were desperate, heavy with sorrow. I listened, I forgave, but I didn't return. Give me another chance, she whispered. I'll do anything. I shook my head, calm, steady, unshaken. I forgive you, but I won't go back. Her hope crumbled, her tears fell freely. I was lonely, she said. So was I replied, but I stayed. I chose dignity. I chose honesty. She tried to reach for my hand. I let her struggle with the truth. I wasn't angry. I wasn't vengeful. I was stronger than that. Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, measured, steady. Sometimes it's standing still while someone you loved begs for a version of you they will never get again. She walked away, looking back only once. I didn't follow. That night, I realized my victory wasn't in forgetting. It wasn't in rage. It was in choosing myself, in protecting the part of me she had once ignored. I met Maya again by chance. No accusations, no past pain. Only mutual acknowledgement of survival. Two people who had witnessed betrayal and found themselves again without needing to explain the flames they had walked through, and finally, I understood. Loving yourself is sometimes the bravest choice you can make. I forgave her, but I didn't go back. If there's one thing life taught me, it's this. Love without honesty is nothing but betrayal, wearing a beautiful mask. Trust is fragile. Once broken, even the softest words cannot repair it. I loved quietly. I gave everything. And still, I was betrayed. I used to think silence was weakness. I thought that staying calm, swallowing my pain, Pretending everything was fine made me small. But silence can be strength, it can be armor, it can give you the clarity to see the truth and the courage to walk away before the damage becomes irreversible. Walking away isn't easy, it isn't romantic, it isn't celebrated. But leaving can be the bravest act of love for yourself. Love for the children who will never bear the weight of adult lies. Love for the life you still deserve. Children pay for adult deceit. Every secret, every betrayal, every whispered lie, those ripple into their lives in ways we can't undo. Dignity isn't loud, it is quiet. It is choosing yourself when others fail to see your worth. It is leaving when respect dies. Healing is slow. It's not fireworks or grand declarations. It's mornings you wake up and don't hurt. Evenings you sleep without nightmares, and days when you smile without guilt. I'm not fully healed. Memories still haunt me, but I am no longer bleeding. That is enough to rebuild. That is enough to breathe again. Strength is not revenge. Strength is quiet, unwavering, and steady. It carries you forward when everything else tries to pull you back. Now, I speak to you. Have you ever trusted someone who broke you? Would you stay for love or leave for respect? Is silence weakness or the strongest answer? Share your story. Comment below. Choose a side. Stay or walk away. Tag someone who needs this message. Sometimes the bravest love story isn't the one that survives every storm. Sometimes it's the one where you love yourself enough to leave. I left, not because I didn't love, but because I did. Not because I didn't care, but because I had to. And in that choice, I found a freedom betrayal could never take. You can too.